While the world's attention has been glued to the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, the former Bishop of Hong Kong, Cardinal Joseph ZEN, was to stand trial in China for, quote, conspiracy to collude with foreign forces. That trial has been further delayed after the presiding judge apparently contracted COVID. Now 90-year-old Cardinal ZEN faces an uncertain future. Joining me with an update on his situation and what this delay might mean is Director of the Center for Religious Freedom at the Hudson Institute, Nina Shea, and former U.S. Congressman from Virginia, now Commissioner of the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, Frank Wolf. Thank you both for being here. Commissioner Wolf, Cardinal ZEN was charged under this sweeping security law imposed by Beijing in 2020. ZEN and 5 others were arrested in May. The charges could carry heavy fines and significant jail time, and the trial could still begin next week. What do you make of the original charge? And is the delay legitimate or perhaps a tactic by the CCP?
Well, with the Chinese government, you never know. The charges against Cardinal ZEN, who, as you know, Raymond, is 90 years old and has been the leading Catholic spokesman in Hong Kong, quite frankly, maybe even in all of China. It would be devastating because a prison sentence for someone 90 years old could be basically a death sentence. I don't know what the delay means. They said originally it was because of COVID for the judge. We have asked, and I know Nina has also asked, that the State Department have somebody American staff person from the American consulate to be there. One, to show that America cares deeply about this. Secondly, to be an encouragement to Cardinal ZEN. But the delay could be just kind of another Chinese tactic. We just don't know.
Nina, we have no new firm date for this trial. What do you think that delay means for Cardinal ZEN? I mean, is this an advantage to him, or are the Chinese manipulating the situation to their own advantage? What are you hearing?
Well, Raymond, I think we have to look at this from the context, a broader context, not even just about Cardinal ZEN, not even about Hong Kong, but about the Sino-Vatican agreement, which is up for renewal in the coming weeks. And the Vatican has been really acting quite desperate to see it renewed. The Chinese, not so much. It is an example of diplomatic malpractice, frankly, from the point of view of the, looking at the Vatican's actions. The terms in any type of agreement like this, it depends on how the terms are drafted and who enforces them. And of course, in this case, the terms are secret. We don't know. We know it's about the appointment of bishops, and there is no enforcement. And the Vatican really has gotten a raw deal from what we've seen so far. I know the Holy Father has said it's moving well, but it's not ideal. I think that's a bit of an understatement. There are, by my count, 6 bishops on the mainland who have either disappeared or in detention or have been banished from their ministry. Plus Cardinal ZEN, the highest ranking most senior hierarchy bishop in China, on facing trial now. This is really reminiscent of the time when Cardinal Kung was put on trial some 70 years ago, which ruptured the diplomatic relations between Vatican and China and Beijing. So, plus there's the Uyghur genocide that's unfolded and been identified in the last couple of years since this agreement was first signed. The Vatican has been working on an agreement for 25 years. And it decided to go forward with this really secret, and it looks like a very bad agreement, at a very time when President Xi is cracking down across the board on human rights in Hong Kong, on free speech, political rights in Hong Kong, also absorbing Hong Kong, swallowing it up, threatening Taiwan, committing genocide against the Uyghurs, and banning all children from any exposure to religion whatsoever inside China. So it's a terrible time to go forward with any kind of agreement. I think that the Vatican has made a mistake. It should be shoring up the underground instead.
Commissioner Wolf, I want your thoughts both as in your previous incarnation as a politician and now as head of the International Religious Freedom Commission. A week ago, the Pope asked to meet with President Xi in Kazakhstan. And he was totally rebuffed. Xi had no time for him. What do you think that means, and how do you interpret that vis-a-vis this Sino-Vatican agreement?
Well, it's a rebuffment of the Pope, rebuffment of the Catholic Church, rebuffment of Christianity. The very thought that the Pope was denied the meeting was shocking. That's why we want a representative of the United States government to be there at the trial. Also, quite frankly, Raymond, the church in the West should be speaking out. Catholic bishops should be speaking out. Cardinals should be speaking out. Protestant pastors should be speaking out. If you care about religious freedom, you should be speaking out. Cardinal ZEN, quite frankly, is a symbol for Christianity right now in China. And if this trial goes forward and he is convicted, a prison sentence could bring about his death. So I think this is very, very important. I think what Nina said is accurate. There are 5, maybe 6 Catholic bishops. You remember Congressman Chris Smith took Holy Communion from Bishop Hsu. He was never seen again, and yet he was alive for a long period of time, we were told.
No, it's outrageous. Both the silence of the church in America, but firstly, the church in the Vatican. And Nina, I want your take on this. The Pope did issue some words regarding China and Cardinal ZEN on his way back from Kazakhstan after he was, denied a meeting with Xi. He was asked by a reporter from Crux if he thought ZEN's trial is a violation of religious freedom. I want to put the quote up. To understand China, Pope Francis said, takes a century, and we do not live for a century. The Chinese mentality is a rich mentality, and when it gets a bit sick, it loses its richness. It is capable of making mistakes. To understand, we have chosen the path of dialogue, open to dialogue. To characterize China as anti-democratic, I don't feel like it because it is such a complex country with its own rhythms. Yes, it's true that there are things that seem to us not to be democratic. That is true. Cardinal ZEN, elderly, will go on trial in a few days, I believe. He says what he feels. One sees that there are limitations there. Nina, your reaction to those words and the Pope's understanding of Cardinal ZEN and the Chinese government.
Yes, Raymond, it's really it's disappointing to say the least. It's not pastoral. The whole justification of the Vatican for this agreement, and that's why the Pope is doing this. He's afraid to criticize Beijing because he's afraid that they'll walk away from the agreement, which they've gotten virtually nothing out of. They said that they would move the study center from Hong Kong, which was a very important center for study and learning of Christianity for Catholics in China. All over China would come and do that. They would move it to Beijing, and now Beijing has not responded at all. But they're offering concession after concession, has refused to criticize any arrest of any of the bishops or detention or disappearance. And they secretly, though, they quietly, anonymously, the Vatican official said that they're offering a hand, but every time they offer a hand to China, they end up with a bloody blade of the knife, that they have a bloody hand. So that they are, it's a raw deal, but the price of that deal, not only in terms of not filling about a third of the 90 Episcopal seats that are empty, and getting only 6 appointments in the 4 years since the deal has been signed, 2 of which were, it looks like, observers say that it looks like it took the Vatican and the Pope by surprise. It was outside the regular process. So they've gotten 6 bishops in 4 years out of 30 that they need. And 2 of them may not even be their picks at all, and the Pope may, approved after the fact. This is a raw deal, and the price of it is not only in the empty Episcopal seats, which is important, and that is the life of the Church, but it's the silence of and the
Nina,
holding back on moral authority.
I don't mean to cut you off, but you've hit on it. You just said this entire way that these bishops were appointed took the papacy and the Pope and the Vatican by surprise. Well, they shouldn't have been surprised. Commissioner Wolf, Cardinal ZEN tried repeatedly to the Pope's face and through emissaries to warn him. This is what would happen if you sold out the church in China. Those are ZEN's words, not mine. And he said it would destroy the church because you're handing over the appointment of bishops and episcopal apostolic trust to the Chinese Communist government. Your thoughts, Commissioner Wolf, on the Vatican now silent as not only home church leaders, but their own cardinals are being dragged into prison and subjected to this kind of kangaroo court?
Well, Raymond, they have to speak out because, as Nina said, there's genocide against the Uyghurs. There's genocidal activity against the Buddhists in Tibet. The Falun Gong, there's organ harvesting, where I won't get into. They're taking people's organs and selling. There are 100 Protestant pastors in jail. You need to speak out. They will not understand if you don't speak out. You have to be bold. I mean, Ronald Reagan taught us this. You need to speak out over and over and over. And by speaking out, that's what got Sharansky out. That's what got Solzhenitsyn out. You need to speak out. Cardinal ZEN is a hero. He represents the Christian faith there. He's a man. He goes into prisons and he ministers to prisoners. I've met him when he's come here in the United States. He's a humble man. We need to speak out for him. The Congress should be speaking out. The administration should be speaking out. The church should be speaking out. Everyone should be speaking out and praying for him because this is very, very important. Yeah. A jail sentence to a 9-year-old man could literally be a death sentence. We all need to speak out.
Yeah. Have you heard, and I'll throw this to both of you, has the Biden administration offered anything diplomatically to send someone over? Have they responded favorably, Commissioner Wolf, to your idea that a representative should go and be present to observe this trial?
Well, I don't know, and we'll find out. The trial could begin. We asked you, sir, officially asked the State Department to send. Nina, God bless her, has been very good. Nina has had a number of other people. Lord Alton from Britain has spoken out. Yeah. Nina has contacted different people. She can comment on that. But so they have really been contacted from many sources. We pray that they will send. To have somebody in the trial room would send a message that America cares. We care about religious freedom, but also it would be an encouragement to Cardinal ZEN.
Yeah. Nina, you want to jump in on that? And I also want you to speak specifically to the Pope's critique or lack thereof, where he wasn't sure whether China is anti-democratic. How could anyone come away with that perception? Yeah,
he is really, the Pope seems to be covering up, even an apologist at this point. I don't know if he's confused about that it's, the Latin American kind of liberation theology going on in China, but it's very, very different. It's more Stalinist. It's more Maoist. The president of China wants to eradicate religion, all religions. As Commissioner Wolf said, it's the Uyghurs, it's the Tibetans, it's the Falun Gong, it's also the Christians. And they want to eliminate them. They don't want to recognize the Pope. The last thing they want is Pope Francis in Beijing, which the Vatican keeps asking for, including the Pope in Kazakhstan said it just last week. I'm willing to go. I'm ready to go. They're not going to let him in. They've snubbed him in Kazakhstan. They've snubbed him in Rome right after they renewed it the last time 2 years ago. They put out an order saying that, here's how you appoint Catholic bishops a month after this agreement was renewed the last time. The ordinance had no mention of the Pope, a papal role. There was a Wuhan Catholic conference in August, the first one since the agreement signed of Catholic leaders. Again, the top government-approved bishops made no mention of the Pope or the agreement. It's dead letter, and the Pope is really forfeiting some moral authority by covering up and by refusing to say what is happening to Catholics, to Christians, to other religions, including the Uyghurs. There needs to be a change in policy in the Vatican. This is, they've had their single focus on this agreement and dialogue. It's not working. The church is being destroyed.
I'll say. Yeah, churches being imprisoned, destroyed, and snuffed out. And I mean, to allow the Gospels to be perverted and have Xi and Mao and communist thought woven into the official scriptures read in these churches, that's outrageous. I mean, forget offensive policies. It's an offense before God. Commissioner Wolf, before we run out of time, the communist Chinese government here seems completely oblivious to any obligations in this supposed pact with the Vatican. And you see all of these clerics walking on eggshells. And as you said earlier, you were asking for bishops to speak out around the world. They're taking their lead from Rome, and Rome has decided to be silent on this. Is this kind of diplomacy, this walking on eggshells as the church bleeds out, is this effective in any way or a path to dialogue?
No, it is not effective. What is effective was when Pope John Paul and Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher spoke out over and over. Just talk to Sharansky. When Sharansky knew that people were speaking out for him, his life got better in the prison and he got out. Solzhenitsyn talks to speaking out boldly in a clear way, in a kind way, but speaking out over and over and over is an encouragement to the people in the parishioners in the church. But no, quietness does not get you there. You need to be like the combination of Pope John Paul and President Ronald Reagan. That's what you need to be, particularly when you're up against people in China.
Commissioner Wolf has made a very important point about the Ostpolitik of the Vatican II. It was John Paul II who changed the policy and started to speak out, because before that, the two prior popes had this Ostpolitik. It's a diplomacy with the Soviet bloc, and it compromised the church. George Weigel, whom you've had on the show, he has documented how this has compromised even Vatican II, where the Hungarian Vatican delegation was infiltrated by KGB agents with numbers. This is going back to that failed policy, and it's a mistake. Commissioner Wolf made another important point, which is that Cardinal ZEN is the symbol of Christianity in China, for the Chinese and for the world. He is the one face that everyone recognizes for Christians in China, and maybe for all dissidents in China, for that matter.
And I will take Commissioner Wolf's advice and urge everybody to keep Cardinal ZEN, all the suffering church in China, in your prayers. Our friend Jimmy Lai and so many others who've been caught up in this maniacal ideological purge of faith and faithful people and those who love democracy in any form. Commissioner Frank Wolf, Nina Shea, thank you both for your advocacy and your clarity tonight.
Thank you, Raymond.